Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists. This is Andrew. This is episode number 78, I believe. So, I would like to start off this episode by kind of explaining a couple quick things. One, yes, we are not doing our normal format yet again. Michelle and I were just at ADHA's annual conference, and it was fantastic. But in the midst of all the thousands of bajillions of things that we had to do, we forgot to record an intro for this, and we're both traveling again today. So guess what? We don't do the segments, we don't do a real intro, and I'm really sorry, but we are going to get back on track here really quick. I wanted to first explain this episode. This was Mary Jensen. She's a hygienist, and I interviewed her with Jasmine back in, whenever it was, March or April, whenever it was, whenever Smiles at Sea was. It was awesome. It was fantastic. And so Jasmine of the Mom Genist podcast, Jasmine Haley, so she's co-hosting with me on this one. I don't really know how to explain that. She's not really co-hosting. She's hosting, but I'm her co-host. But I'm not really sure who's co-host, if that makes any sense. Anyways, also, I did not listen to this episode yet, so I know that Jasmine has already released this one. We were going to do kind of a week after week release of this episode, and I was going to edit it and do all these things. Well, I'm not doing that either. So if there's some mistakes in there, gosh, I hope they're not that bad. Sorry about that, everyone. When we recorded this, we were in the midst of a party, and so you'll hear a lot of party noise in the background. That's kind of what Smiles at Sea is all about. It's a lot about fun and education, and so that's kind of what's going on there. As a quick recap, this is what I'm going to do, and I am grateful to the Mom Genist for being a lot more prepared. Their podcast is so much better as far as it being prepared and on point with information and everything. But this is the summary that I'm going to steal from them that I haven't asked to steal from them yet, but it's going to happen. It is Mary Jensen, RDH, the 2017 Philips Sonicare Heart to Hands Award recipient. In this episode, we're going to do a quick recap of the Smiles at Sea and sharing the inspiring professional journey of Mary. She shares insight on creating opportunities for yourself and what it's like professionally when the children are raised. Oh yeah, because we do talk about, because it's Mom Genist, so we do talk about how that impacts motherhood, being a hygienist, and doing the thousands of things that Mary has. And she's traveled all over the place. She's quite an amazing woman, and so that's what she was explaining about what it's like professionally when the children are raised. Mary hasn't slowed down in her profession for providing care to the underserved, and you're going to hear about that in this episode. Also, as another quick recap, Michelle and I are exhausted. I will tell you what, ADHA this year was so much better than ADH last year. Now, part of that is my fault because I was only in town for 24 hours. But for me, the experience was like no other. So I wanted to give a special shout out to Cynthia for really being our contact person during this whole entire conference and convention, making sure that we had everything that we need, making sure that because we asked for chairs and tables and stuff like that we didn't pre-plan because we were just trying to figure everything out once we got to the conference center, and getting us access to the things that we needed to do the podcasting properly. I want to thank Crest also for getting me there and helping support me in that way. Also for allowing me to be part of the presentation during the breakfast. That was a really cool experience for me. So I hope everyone enjoys this episode. We're going to be back next week with some more information about ADHA and another great interview and hopefully our segments. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hey, Michelle.
Yeah?
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
Listeners, welcome to another episode of, something. It's going to be a co-hosted podcast between A Tale of Two Hygienists and Mom Genist. So I have with me Jasmine. Hi.
Hey.
So we found each other on the boat. Council mics.
And I just got awkward for a little bit because you introduced me, but then I was like, "This is Jasmine." So what was so funny is Mary told me that I was relaxed.
Yes.
And I'm not. All of a sudden, when you just introduced, so
because we're all of a sudden live,
right?
Yeah. No, I mean, okay. So let's set, because the listeners have no idea where we're at right now. Okay. So let's set the stage for them. Mm-hmm. So we're at Smiles at Sea.
Yes, epic conference.
And if I could say, this was so much better than the last Smiles at Sea. Not that the last one was bad. So I went to the one that was in September. It was fantastic. But
where'd you go?
Cozumel. So from New Orleans down to Cozumel and then back. It was 1 day longer. But the CE, the way it was structured, also very nice too. But I like the way the CE is structured here, where you have your morning blocks, and then you have nothing until the evening, and the evening's the social side. Before, if I can remember correctly, I don't know. I wasn't drinking, I promise. I just don't recall. I feel like there was classes kind of throughout the day. It felt long. It felt like we were trying to cram too much in. But I mean, what has your experience been like? This is your first cruise?
This is my very first cruise ever in my life for myself and my husband, and my first Smiles at Sea experience. I am loving every minute of it. Every minute of it. I actually, what the hard part is being able to find enough time to sleep, even though you want to stay up and do everything.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff on here. Like my husband and I talked about how I had like sensory overload. Like when we came in, it's like all these lights flashing and all the music, and then they give you this itinerary that's like, I mean, how much time do I really have? Really?
Right.
You know, so it's been great. It's been
well,
really great.
Can I also say, for the listeners, Jasmine lectured the very first lecture of the whole cruise, and she killed it. You did a great job. Absolutely amazing.
Thank
I've heard
you.
nothing but great feedback from everyone else, too, about it. So
well
done.
Good.
So it's a privilege to have you, like, co-host with me.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
And also, we don't even care that Michelle's not here. I'm just going to say that right now. Suck it, Michelle. That's what's going on.
I've
upgraded.
You, Michelle.
No, I've upgraded. Just letting you know, this might be a new thing, Michelle. I'm so sorry.
I will have to tell you, Michelle, Andrew has disappointed you once again. He has 2 Red Bulls in his cup right now.
Yeah, I doubled down. You probably can't hear this, but that's for you. Those are the empties. And, yeah.
Did you bring your own supply on the boat?
Maybe. And maybe not, because I think on this cruise line you're not supposed to bring your own. So
I
may or may not have brought my own case of it.
Wow. Interesting.
And it may or may not have made it all the way through.
Wow.
So just throwing that out there.
Wow.
So
we got to talk about this more later.
We do have to talk about this more later. But I'll just say, again, I'm just so happy to be here on Smiles at Sea.
Me too.
I know there's another one coming up this September. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this one, but for all of our listeners, I will for sure be at the one that's next year in May, going from Seattle to Alaska, because I live in the Seattle area. It makes sense. So I'll be there. So plan ahead.
All right. So our guest today is Mary Jensen. She has a beautiful, bright smile. She's excited. She's one of the people that you need to meet. Very, very inspirational. I love her story. From being a mom, of course, because that's my focus as a mom genius. But I love what she's doing now with her career. Some of the conversations we had regarding your education, I would love to explore that. Okay. And also talk a little bit about currently what you're doing now for elder care.
Sure.
So, welcome.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Jasmine. I concur with your description of Smiles at Sea. It's fantastic. Again, we need 48-hour days to get it all in the time frame, but it's a great getaway. I would highly recommend it to any hygienist, any dental office, staff, nurses, everybody.
Bring the whole team.
Bring the team. You won't regret it.
Yeah, and your significant others, because you brought your hubby.
Right, and you did too.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
Sorry, Allison, I didn't bring you.
No pressure.
Maybe next time.
No pressure. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you originally from? When did not when did you go to dental hygiene school, but
sure.
How was hygiene school for you?
Okay. Well, I like to call myself a seasoned hygienist, right? So I don't mind saying I've been a hygienist 36 years. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. and still live there. And I love being a dental hygienist. I love where it's taken me. But in our conversation the first night we were here, I had mentioned that while I was working right out of college, I had gotten my associates, and I worked during the day, and I went to school at night and finished up my bachelor's and my master's degree. And then I proceeded to work clinical for the next 20 and 30 years. But I always had that in my back pocket. My bachelor's was in applied behavioral science, and my master's is in adult and continuing education. And even though maybe I wasn't using it directly, I was using it indirectly in my conversations and my work with working clinical. I love dental hygiene, and I love being a mom, of course. Jasmine and I discussed we're at two different points because our daughter will actually be 24 tomorrow. I can't believe that. And she herself is in grad school, so maybe she's kind of following. Her name is Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out.
Shout out, Karen. We'll see you tomorrow night for your birthday. I think it's a good thing early on, if you can, just keep going to school, because you never know where your career is going to take you. After I finished my bachelor's and my master's, I worked in Switzerland for 3 years. And that kind of gave me the travel bug. I met dozens of other hygienists from all around the country, and we worked very hard, but we were also given a lot of vacation time, so we were able to travel all over Europe, but also working hard providing clinical care for our patients in private practice. And then when I came back from that, got married. And then the dentist that I was working for was really involved with Rotary International doing medical mission trip work. And he kind of said, Mary, you should go on this because there was a hygienist on the last one. And I was dumbfounded. So long story short, in July, I'll be going on my 10th medical mission trip with Alliance for Smiles. I'm the lead dental hygienist for this organization. And it's a great organization. We do the dental work on the kids before they have their cleft lip or cleft palate operated on.
That's great.
So I've been to the Philippines, to Ghana, to Bangladesh, and this will be my 9th trip to China in July. So, sometimes people think, oh, what else is out there for dental hygienists? There's a lot. And I'm living proof that even after 36 years, you can do a lot of new things. And for the last 2 years, as Jasmine knows, and maybe you might know as well, I've been an oral care specialist with the High Life Oral Health Alliance, and I absolutely love having what I like to say a business within a business, and seeing my older adults on a weekly basis to provide oral hygiene care. I absolutely love it. So that's where I'm at, and through that I've met so many other hygienists, and the next thing you know, I'm on Smiles at Sea, and here we are being interviewed on a podcast. So you never know where life is going to take you.
I have some follow-up questions just
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Go
I'm really
ahead.
sorry. Jasmine and I are going to try and find our groove.
You find
This is our first
yeah.
time ever doing this together, so
This is great.
I wanted to kind of circle back to the education because you're,
Yes.
basically telling everyone go get more education.
Absolutely.
And I agree with
Jasmine
that.
and I are both, going on for more education right currently.
Right,
And
right.
so I guess the question that we see a lot on the forums is what type of education should I go on to get? So, for example, one of the biggest questions is, should I go back and get my bachelor's in dental hygiene or business, or what should I get my bachelor's in?
Right.
And then, of course, higher education past that. But what is your advice or what are your thoughts along those lines?
I would say, what are you interested in? If you have an interest in public health, go that direction. If you have an interest in education, go that direction. I think hygienists can go down a lot of different streets. I think hygienists could be diabetes educators. I think, there's just go into a nutritional aspect of it. I think you have to find your passion and then go. I went from a master's in adult education because at the time I thought I want to be a teacher. And I think all dental hygienists are teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
I
all
agree.
teachers. We all educate. But to go further into that, your master's is required. So,
What are your thoughts on that, Jasmine? I don't know if we have talked about that too much.
I am a huge advocate for advancing your degree. huge advocate for it. Whether it be in dental hygiene, because I'm getting mine in dental hygiene with a concentration of public health and education, or in business like you're doing. I feel that a lot of hygienists in the forums get lost in translation almost. They're just so stuck on the negative and how they're not satisfied. And they're never fully understanding the importance of being prepared for when the opportunities do arise.
Right.
And getting your education allows you to be ready for those opportunities that come. So I think that's something that I fully believe in. For me, I wish I went straight from BS to an MS. But as soon as I was done with my BS, I was welcoming, soon to be welcoming my husband and I. So it was like, okay, you got to pump the brakes for a little bit and have a family. So I appreciate Mary's example, because she went ahead and got it, went straight ahead.
Went straight
and
through,
I tell my students that all the time. If you don't have any family that you really, little ones you have to worry about, go ahead and get your education now while you have the energy. But I think the student pool is changing now. There's a lot of hygienists that are, student hygienists have families. They have very complicated situations and different challenges that I wasn't necessarily facing, because I was like in my early 20s. Most of us were in our early 20s. It was very rare to see someone with a family in our particular class. So that's changing now also.
It is changing.
Right.
I mean, and I'd have to maybe echo what you're both saying, because I know now that I've been in the field for 8 years or whatever, I really wish I would have went on and got my bachelor's and master's a lot sooner than just this last couple of years. But it's because, like Mary, you were saying, I feel like if you wouldn't have had that education level right away, all the doors that would have been open to you might not have been prepared to step through them quite yet.
Correct. Right.
And I just... I'm happy with how things worked out for me. I think things are going really well for me, and I'm grateful for that. But for those students out there, or those new grads or whatever, I feel like, they're confused because, like you were saying, Jasmine, it's like they're not prepared for it. They don't know what they want to do. So you got to analyze yourself first, and then figure out.
I think take some time and figure out which direction you want to go, but always remembering that education is something nobody can ever take away from you. And once you have it, and you can put those letters at the end of your name, especially, I think, working now in different healthcare settings, like I am, working in memory care communities and assisted living communities. On my business card, it's Mary Jensen, RDH, MS. And I think it gives us a little bit more credibility in the medical community. Because they might be confused about the RDH, but, she has her master's degree. Okay, well, that's it opens some doors. I am fully convinced that it has opened some doors for me at this point in my career.
How do you feel that doing the charitable dentistry or the mission trips have really kind of paved your way into the high life side of things?
That's a really good question, because it's opposite age groups. With the medical missions, it's all children, and sometimes very young children. I think organizational skills, to tell you the truth, because you have to really have everything together when you do a medical mission trip. You're given 2 suitcases, that you can bring. One is all of your dental supplies, and one is your personal belongings. And so there's a weight limit, and you really have to have your list and checking it off and making sure. And it's the same way now contacting prospective clients that I'm looking for to provide the oral hygiene care for the dependent senior. I have a checklist. I have a system in place that to follow up. So I think organizational skills. I think any mission trip work will help anybody with that, and just the fact how you see the world completely different after you do a mission trip, and you meet people from around the world as well. It's really wonderful.
I love seeing you speak right now, Mary. You have a smile from ear to ear, and I will have to tell you a little backstory. I go to Phone School of Dental Hygiene. I'm at University of Bridgeport, and one of my classmates in my cohort, her name is Dorothy Ferreira, and her episode is going to be out in a few weeks. You've got to meet her, Andrew.
All right. Set it up. We'll do it.
She is amazing, just like Mary is. And Mary talked about the Alliance for Smiles in front of our class. And I had
Dorothy did. Dorothy did. That's okay. Dorothy did. Dorothy and I are friends, so I want her to get that credit. I love you, Dorothy.
Shout out to Dorothy.
Shout out Dorothy Herrera. Dorothy came to the school that I teach at as an adjunct, and she shared some of the photos and what you guys do. And the outcome, what you receive after, is just phenomenal. But it's also some challenges involved with it. And it takes a certain kind of person and a certain kind of heart to deal with some of those challenges. And I just want to first commend you and, of course, Dorothy for all that you guys
Thank
and
you.
the whole entire team and all these other mission trips that go out there. Michelle did one to Uganda, I believe it was. And it's just incredible the sacrifices they have to make in order to really do a good service to global public health, really.
I was going to say, back to the mom thing, it helps having a supportive family to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
The first trip I took, our daughter was in 7th grade. And so it was, she was young, but not that young. But it really helps to have a supportive family, husband and daughter that are like, go. I told my husband about it. His first question was, well, why wouldn't you go?
Shout out to Herman.
Yeah, Herm, you're great.
He's a great guy.
Well, you're right. I mean, I think so. I've been going on mission trips since 2011.
That's great.
And it's dental trips. And I just, if Allison wasn't so willing to let me be globetrotting, basically, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Costa Rica, all those places, then, I wouldn't have had that outlook. I think that maybe a compassion, increased level of compassion for others. I think that also, when you're working with some of the impoverished countries or the groups of people that are there, when you have those types of people that come into your office before that, and not in a mean way, but I think sometimes some people are like, oh, we have the dirty kid today, we have the kid that smells bad or whatever. It just changes your whole outlook on that person. And further, as a kind of a personal testimony to like missionary work, I went to the Philippines. I was there for 2 years for a church mission. And before I went there, I hated babies. I couldn't stand babies. They were gross. And maybe some of the baby of the family, though. I might have said this on your podcast. I can't remember, but I just couldn't. I can't stand babies. I couldn't. But then one time, as I was there for 2 years, at the very end of the 2 years, there was this little child that was dirty, dirt all over. We were at their little hut that they lived in, and he had the biggest smile every time he looked at me. It just melted my heart. That one singular experience changed forever the way I looked at babies and my own children. In so much that now at church, I'm the baby whisperer. Yeah. Like, it's like, baby won't be quiet. Go give him to Andrew,
Aww.
Like, I'm like, all right. Now I'm a big warm dude, so it's okay.
There was a reason for all of that, wasn't there?
So, I mean, it's so wonderful, the experiences and but it's the perspective changing that really that can occur that doesn't maybe happen in other areas.
And it goes back to your presentation, Jasmine, about cultural sensitivity. And when you're in somebody else's world, it's kind of flipped, and you have to be careful not to maybe push your I don't want to say like ideas and everything that's all about you onto them.
Right.
Because that's not right. That's not fair. So you have to kind of step back a little bit and, work together to get what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
So I wanted you to maybe quickly go over High Life.
Sure.
And your experiences, like how did you discover High Life, and why would you feel so compelled to go in that direction?
Well, it was actually at a local component meeting in Illinois, my IDHA local component. So shout out to everything that ADHA does for us, right?
Yeah.
And the speaker was Deb Grant. Maybe you're familiar with Deb Grant. And she mentioned somebody by the name of Angie Stone and helping seniors and providing oral hygiene care. And I was like, wait, what? I could do this without a dentist? Fast forward, did my due diligence, did my research online, put some things into place, talked with Angie, met Angie, and I like to say I stepped off the curb. And I did. I invested in myself. I'm at a point in my career where I'm able to do that, but anybody can do this. But you have to have the drive to do it. Put some things into place, and you basically have to go out and market yourself. And however that might be, with High Life, once you're fully vested with High Life, you're given a marketing manual. You're given the steps, but you're the one who has to take the steps. When I signed my first client with High Life, and I went back into my car, and I thought, this is the first time in 34 years as a hygienist that I've done something independently, and I'm going to be compensated for it. I'm going to be compensated for it. That was empowering.
Yeah.
That was empowering. And I think down the road, you're going to see more and more assisted living, memory care communities. They're going to need these services that the hygienists can provide. And what I do, I provide oral hygiene care. I brush, I proxy brush, I floss, I go between, whatever it takes. If they need a dry mouth spray, I'll incorporate that. And then they're all on a xylitol protocol if they can handle, using a mint. Obviously, I have a couple of Parkinson's patients. They can't tolerate that.
Right.
I like working in a community where you're part of the medical system, really. I'm talking with the nurses. Has there been an update? Has there been a change in Joe's medications? What's going on? What's happened here? What's happened there? I need that information. Because they know I'm there to help that individual resident.
Have you run into barriers about privacy or anything like that? Because you are you're not acting in the capacity of a dental hygienist necessarily.
Right. I'm acting in the capacity of a caregiver, and the families that I'm working with have signed a waiver, and they've also signed a contract. So they've given me permission to provide the oral hygiene care. And I use this analogy, I think, with you, Jasmine. It would be no different than you telling that babysitter you left your two little pumpkins with to brush their teeth before they go to bed. You've given that individual permission. Well, Mrs. Smith has given me permission to brush Mr. Smith's teeth once a week. It's a signed waiver. So all the legalities, everything it's all covered. The client pays High Life pays me. So I'm in essence a 1099.
How do you perceive the nursing staff and medical staff, their acceptance of you, like when you go in there? Is it territory at all? I
would say the initial get in can be difficult, and so I've done a lot of networking. There are a lot of senior services organizations. I'm outside of Chicago, so a lot of people and a lot of memory care communities being built. And I joined these organizations. I go to these networking breakfasts. I go to the events that are held by these different communities. And it's not the first try. Trust me. It takes them to see me 3 or 4 or 5 tries. But I was speaking with Angie just a little while ago, and I said, at the airport coming here, there was the director of public relations at a community calling me to set up a CNA in-service. I do a lot of CNA in-service presentations because now I'm wrapping them in.
Nice.
And then that's the way I've gotten some of my referrals. So
absolutely. That is amazing. And we heard a little bit of Angie this morning and talked to her a little bit after. And every time I talk to her, just hearing her passion, I always find a way to shed a tear or two. I really don't cry. I'm not a crier. And she got me again today. She's just a gem to our profession. Right. What she's created, and then how she's empowering other professionionals to go out and do the same and make a difference in a population that's overlooked. Right. I think this is something that we should celebrate as a community, as a dental hygiene community, sisterhood, brotherhood, and shout to the mountaintops that, hey, this is one of the answers to the issues that we're having. Right now, we can't wait for politics.
We can't.
We need to help them right now.
I feel very blessed to be part of this, and I think being part of a trend-setting, movement, really. Absolutely. And nothing is better than when you get that audible thank you from that senior. Because their mouth is clean. We all know what it feels like if you haven't brushed your teeth, right? I mean, especially us as dental hygienists, right? Now imagine that 88-year-old with a full complement of teeth and his caregiver hasn't brushed his teeth in several days. They feel terrible. And so when you go in and provide that care, I never go in shaking my finger, but I'm also an advocate for my client. and for the client's spouse.
Sure.
And I will send an email. A kind word, a gentle nudge from you will go a long way to that care staff if you bring it to their attention. But we need to work together. We need to work all together for the better health of that older adult. It's so important.
Do you have any experiences in your career, but particularly, well, you can use anyone, because I think you've had some great experiences. Anything that really stands out that was very impactful for you in your career that really helped you to realize you were making a difference?
Well, it would be the mission trip work. Just getting hugs from those kids. It's very emotional. And I have my one client that I have now who has Parkinson's. When she can verbally give me that little thank you, so soft when I'm done cleaning her mouth, that it, like you said, it brings a tear to your eye.
Yeah.
And I get to do it every week. I get to I get to see these individuals every week. I would say you have to have a heart for seniors.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable in the world of dementia. But there are so many courses you can take online. There's so many places you can go to learn more about it, to assist you. Again, going back to education and furthering it and just keeping it moving forward, learning new things.
Yeah. Oh, so where can people contact you?
Well, you can go to the High Life Oral Health Alliance website, so that's highlifeoha.com, and you can ask to be have the newsletter mailed to you. You can send more information requests right on the website, and we'll get back to you. It'll be myself or it'll be Angie. If you want more information, we'll give you a call. We can chat for 10 minutes. All the information's on the website. It's a wealth of information, so just take a look at it. Even if you're not thinking about it now, plant it in the back of your head, because the next thing you know, you'll be practicing 30, 35 years, and you'll want to do something different, maybe. You want a different street to go down and still help people.
Yeah.
So I can see doing this for another 10 years. Absolutely.
That's excellent.
I love
absolutely.
your energy.
Thank you. Thank you. Even after a hard day of snorkeling, huh?
I love it. I feel like, I don't know if you've ever seen this meme where it's, Titanic.
Yes.
And what was the lady's name? Rose, right?
Yes.
They had her, this is you before kids, which is Rose Young. And then Rose at like 99 is like, this is you after 2 years with kids. And that's how I feel. I'm about 99 years old.
Yeah.
But I feel like my energy will pick up when I'm at the stage that you are in, where your kids are in their 20s. Getting my group back with my husband,
So. Trust me, when our daughter was young, I wouldn't have been doing this. You know what I'm saying? I think, but then again, there might be some go-getter out there that has 5 kids and wants to do something. It's up to you, and that's the beauty of it. We have choices. We have choices in our profession, and we need to embrace them. We really do.
Well, sounds like they're going to start kicking us off, so we probably should wrap this up. But thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Awesome.
How delightful to be interviewed on a cruise ship.
Right. We're living the rough life right now.
Right.
So, all right. So, listeners, if you have any questions or comments for Mary, go ahead and go to the website. And I'll put all that in the show notes, too. I'm sure Jasmine will do the same thing for her episode.
Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Let's get a selfie.
Okay.